השם הוא לך תוגה להוות, ישמחו עם רבים, לא מוזעתם אויבים מספיע שם יצלח. They occupy our name, our identity.
I was still very much loyal to the Zionist ideology.
Those symbols mean something to me. That star of David, that is on the menorah, that is in our religion of thousands of years.
You say God promised land, you said the Torah. You don't believe in the Torah.
I already warned that Israel would become far more extreme, far more closer to an apartheid state.
I came home and I told my husband, we have to get out of here. Israel is complete mania.
We call it in political science failed state. This is really a collapse of a state.
I'm a rabbi here in Stamford Hill. I born in Jerusalem and we gone out from there in 1970. My grandmother has died in Auschwitz. My father, he was a big leader of the TRT in Jerusalem. He himself was a Holocaust survivor. I live in the Haredi Orthodox Jewish community. People looks like me, have a beard. This type of Haredi Jews, Hasidic Jews, Orthodox Jews, many names people give for these Jews. They have businesses, the prayers, the education for children, and that's all.
I was born in 1954, that is a few years after the establishment of the State of Israel. My parents came from Germany in the early 1930s and lost most members of their family in the Holocaust. I grew up in the city that I was born in, Haifa, and probably had a conventional Israeli Jewish upbringing and experience more or less until I finished my military service in 1974. I participated in the 1973 war on the Golan Heights. I was still very much loyal to the Zionist ideology and didn't question any fundamental way.
My family were very Zionist, but when you grow up in that, you don't actually know that they're Zionist. They were very loyal to the State of Israel. It took me a very, very long time to begin to wake up to what Zionism is and shape my opinion about it.
I come from a quite religious home. Most of my grandparents on my mother's side family perished in the Holocaust. When I was young, to go through a Jewish day school, to go to Zionist youth movements, and for Israel to be a central piece of one's identity, to go to Israel camps. There is an Israel that exists in the mind of Jews who live on the outside that is increasingly distant from the Israel that exists in reality. When you go and live there, you're confronted with that reality. And so the act of living there is the act of saying, okay, what is going on here?
When my father used to live there, he was demonstrating very much against the state. He didn't serve in the army, and he was beaten very much by the Zionist police. He was in prison. Maybe he was more in prison than at home. I cannot say much more. But what they're doing for the Jewish people is terrible.
The true isms of Zionism before I reached the university and started my postgraduate studies in the late 1970s. Conventional education that I was receiving had a very clear narrative, historical narrative of what happened in Palestine. We were taught that Palestine was an empty land, a land without people, waiting for the people, the Jewish people who were without land. We were persuaded that the Jews were actually returning to an ancient homeland that were taken from them during the Roman times. And a second feature which was very important is that the Arab world around us is hostile because of its its religion, because of its political culture, and because it is anti-Semitic. And therefore, we are doomed to defend ourselves and fight for the survival of the state because they hate us or they are against us because we are Jews. When you graduate from the Israeli education system, you really believe that you live in a democracy that is loyal to universal values of morality and humanity.
You're effectively traumatized by the state, by the education system. And when you're brought up there, from a very young age, you're exposed to images of the Holocaust. If you were living there, this would be you. So just remember, the state of Israel is what keeps you safe. In Israel, you have to live in fear. The entire population is kept in a state of fear all the time.
Zionism is a state ideology, which means it encompasses every walk of life. When you go to the kindergarten, you already are exposed to the Zionist narrative and ideology as a toddler. And then you will be exposed to it in elementary school, high school, in the army, according to that nationality law. Between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean, that is all over historical Palestine, only one nation can exist, the Jewish nation. No other nation. And not only that, this law says that in order to assert the Jewish identity of the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, you need to continue to colonize, to settle, and to reject anyone who is not a Jew, who does not accept that all of historical Palestine is a Jewish state. That is the essence of Zionism.
When I was growing up, and now the Palestinians are compared to Nazis, they're not seen as human beings at all. The vast majority of Israeli Jews are supporting the Zionist project. Israel is complete mania.
Zionists were only invented 200 years ago!
It's not a simple thing to do. When you find out that your group is doing really bad things, and you realize that it's really actually very, very unwell, immoral, it's killing people, it's basically a genocidal. I, at some point, realized that I had to choose between loyalty to my group and my own values. I came home and I told my husband, we have to get out of here. I didn't want to live in fear. I renounced my Israeli citizenship in 2001. In fact, I feel liberated, having left, not just leaving the state itself and renouncing citizenship of Israel, but mentally leaving the mindset of Zionism has been incredibly liberating. It was considered a big, big betrayal to want to leave. They were horrified when they heard that I was leaving, and they said, you can't leave, you will never have any friends, you know, they'll come after you. These are the kind of messages that I got, and I'm not kidding.
Israel was never ready to accept the Palestinians as they are. Israel never acknowledged the crimes of the Nakba, of the expulsion of Palestinians, and there is an unwillingness within Zionism to meaningfully challenge that extremism. There is an attempt, especially on the outside, to portray Zionism as something that should be beyond questioning even, something so obvious and benevolent. The Jewish people have a right to self-determination. How could one in any way challenge this? The question of why are you conducting war crimes against the Palestinian civilian population within a broader context of what is legally a regime of apartheid, as designated by not only human rights groups inside Israel, not only international human rights groups, but also now the International Court of Justice. Would you rather have that conversation? Or why are you singling me out because I'm a Jewish state, you must be anti-Semitic? You're just like the Nazis.
I already warned in 1999 that Israel would become far more extreme, far more closer to an apartheid state, that it would be far more ruthless towards the Palestinian in its methods, and would constitute a danger to the stability of the region as a whole. But I did not predict it to be so cruel. If you live in Israel and you declare yourself openly to be an anti-Zionist, if you are a professor in history in a university and you teach your students that Zionism is colonialism, or that what Israel did in 1948 is ethnic cleansing, you clash directly with the narrative, the historical narrative, and the ideology that your government wants you to teach. They see you as a traitor, they don't accept your criticism, and you get death threats, and you are being ostracized, boycotted, and so on. Like so many of my anti-Zionist Jewish friends, I was labeled too as a self-hating Jew.
They occupy our name, our identity, and they're speaking in our name, in all these murder acts, what they're doing in my name, in our name. Everybody knows the history, knows that Jews have a golden life in all Muslim countries for centuries. How can people be so blind? Just open their eyes. I'm going many times to demonstrations, and the police stops me before I come in. Where are you going? I'm going there to demonstration. What? They're going to kill you. I thought, don't worry, just look, I show you a miracle. I go in between hundreds of thousands of Muslims, nobody will touch me. You don't have to protect me, just look. I'm coming every time among Muslims, I never see any anti-Semitism at all. Just look, from the Jewish point of view, where is the most dangerous place for a Jew to live today? You go the whole world, you will come to one point, State of Israel.
The question of what will happen in this land and whether, not a theory of Zionism that I was brought up with, but the practice of the State of Israel, and the state ideology is called Zionism. And the reality there is a reality that is not enabling of an existence which is going to work, of course not for Palestinians, but also for Jews. And I feel now that this is coming apart. And therefore you see that some of the most vociferous, determined, angry voices in this period have been the voices of Jewish people saying, not in my name. Those symbols mean something to me. That Star of David, that is on the menorah, that is in our religion of thousands of years.
The founder of Zionists, his name was TRT-World-Doku from Vienna, Austria. He don't believe in God, he don't believe in nothing. The Judaism is completely a religious movement, have nothing to do with any nationality, with any materialistic things. The Zionists often waving the flag of the promised land, the promised land. You say God promised land, you said the Torah. You don't believe in the Torah, you don't believe in God, you don't eat kosher. How can he be such a strong hypocrite to take out of the Torah something what is for his benefit and ignoring all the other parts? It's written in the 10 Commandments, don't kill, don't steal. The Zionists ignoring everything about the Jewish belief. In the Jewish belief, the State of Israel will come to an end 100%.
Israel survive as it is in the long run. In a situation where it has to fight all the time, in a situation where its own society is going through a kind of a civil war between the secular Jews and the religious Jews, even with the huge American financial aid, when Israel's international image has been eroded like never before, and when the Jews of the world are not going to support it anymore. We call it in political science failed states, or disintegrating states. And this is really a collapse of a state.